Over the past 50 years, Climatech has grown and kept pace with the ever-changing HVAC industry, providing our customers with the best knowledge on the most innovative systems and services.
Serving Lorain and western Cuyahoga counties, Climatech is a full-service heating, air conditioning, and ventilation company. A third-generation, family-owned and operated company providing the most up-to-date level of service and installation with the best quality products.
Today, your comfort demands customized solutions, utilizing best industry practice combined with high-quality, reliable products that protect you and your home.
The HVAC industry will never stand still. It's a commitment to the environment that we learn, train, and produce next-level efficient products and services.
Partnering with Green Sky Financing and our dedicated customer care software allows us to give you the comfort that you need in your home.
Smart products, smart technicians, and dedication to details drive us to deliver highly effective products into your home today and into the future.
Well, it is now week 21. It's the conference championships. We're down to the final 3 games of this year's edition of the Climatech Inc. NFL Prediction Show. Cole McDaniel here with Vince McKee. Vince still holding a 1-point advantage. And Vince, I'm going to start off by saying this. Last week, right at the beginning of the show, I said my gut feeling was that we made all the same picks, that it was identical again. That happened to be true. It was identical. You and I both went 2-2 on the week last week. Saturday was good. Sunday, not so much for our selections. My gut feeling this week, just based off of how this season has gone and us being close, my gut feeling is we picked both of these games differently. That's my gut feeling. I think it's either going to be, we split, I somehow take a 1-point lead, or you then extend your lead. I just feel like there's no other way that we're picking these games all the same, but we shall see. Vince, good to be with you again.
Good to be with you as well. Thank you for having me, and thank you, Climatech, our sponsor. What's unique to me, I was thinking about this a little bit earlier today, is that since we started picking straight up and not worrying about Sunday night football, premium football, Browns game, upset, it's scary how similar we are, right? So there's been, I think, whatever it's been, I don't even know, 7 games or 10 games or whatever it is, wild to me that's been identical. The other thing I was thinking about today is last year how good the playoffs were. Every game from the divisional round on was great. So the weekend we just had, the championships games and the Super Bowl were always, all of them were great, right? Well, this year's been a clunker, with the exception of maybe Jacksonville's comeback and a few other things. Like, for the most part, these have not been the best of games. So I'm thinking this weekend, it should be unbelievable. All kinds of things went through my mind. A couple of years ago, San Francisco versus Kansas City, the Super Bowl can it happen again? Both these teams last year lost in the AFC and NFC championship games, going back to not when I was in high school, but fresh out of high school, like my first 4 years out of high school. Philadelphia, the Eagles, were in the NFC championship game. I think it was 4 years in a row where they lost. They finally made a Super Bowl with McNabb and Terrell Owens and lost to the Patriots. They just have a bad history of losing NFC championship games. But the last time they were a number 1 seed, a few years ago in 2017, they won it all. So Philadelphia has a track record where they can do it. Question on Kansas City, how banged up is Patrick Mahomes? Is Cincinnati a team of destiny? I mean, this is unbelievable what they're doing right now. There's so many things to juggle. Is Brock Purdy for real? We saw him taper off a little bit last week. All kinds of stuff to talk about this week, Cole. I'm glad we're just doing this for fun, because if I had to put money on this, I'd be a nervous wreck right now. But quite frankly, the pride of possibly winning 3 years in a row, I'm not going to lie, I can't stop smiling at the thought of it. But there's so much more work to do. I pray to God we don't tie, because that means we have to go back and watch 17 weeks worth of college picks. So yeah, let's get to it. I'm excited, definitely excited. As usual, went with the wrestling t-shirt, got the NXT cup, the NXT water bottle. So sticking with all the winning wrestling traditions, we'll see how it plays out.
Well, we will see. And before we dive into this week's games, recapping this past weekend, like I said, Saturday was straightforward for us. We thought that the Chiefs would win. I think the Jags have a lot of potential, a lot of ability there. It just wasn't their time yet, not their moment. It was a good learning curve and I think a good development game. I think for some of the young pieces on that roster for the future. Now they have that under their belt. It prepares them for down the road better. But you're going up against a Chiefs team that Andy Reid has the experience. Pat Mahomes has the experience. Travis Kelce, run down the list of that roster. Most of those guys have been there. They've experienced it. Made sense that they got the win. As for the Eagles, they really just showed what we expected about the Giants. The Eagles, you and I still had our questions where, yes, they were rolling throughout the year. The last couple weeks, they let off the gas pedal a little bit. Was that strictly about the injury for Hurts? I don't know, but they definitely did let off the gas pedal. It appeared like they were looking to choke a little bit, even though they had the playoffs locked up. But the Giants really proved that they were probably one of the weakest, if not the weakest teams that made it into the playoffs out of all the teams that were in it. They got handled. It wasn't even close. The Eagles took care of them, swept them aside. On Sunday, though, here's what we're going to hear. And we already are starting to hear it about Josh Allen can't win the big game. And I get sick of that narrative because I understand that Josh Allen has not won the quote unquote big game like an AFC championship or hasn't won a Super Bowl here yet. But he is on a tier with Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen. Those are by far and away the three best quarterbacks in the NFL. And then I'd say sliding in right behind them, in my opinion, is Justin Herbert. And there's some other guys you can start throwing in that mix as well. But you have that tier of those three quarterbacks where if those teams keep everything pieced together, don't be surprised if we see the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bengals regularly being one of the final four teams in the AFC about almost every single season, as long as those quarterbacks stay in those locations. So Josh Allen is such a great talent. He is the arm talent. He is the size, the physicality. He's willing to run. Here's the problem with the Buffalo Bills. They, on paper, should win a Super Bowl. That's why I picked them to win a Super Bowl. That's why you picked them to get to the Super Bowl this season. They win the games in the regular season. They have a good defense. They have a good offense. Everything lines up well for them. Now, when they get into the playoffs, the momentum they had from the regular season, that energy, tapers down a little bit. Is that on McDermott and his staff? Are they not getting those guys energized enough? What's going on? I think there are certainly questions inside of that building. Josh Allen, I didn't think he played poorly from the game that I watched. What I thought was the Bengals simply were disguising pressure very well, and the offensive line of the Buffalo Bills did not deal with it well. Allen had pressure in his face all game. The secondary for the Bengals did a great job against Diggs. It was a good game plan of slowing down Diggs and shutting him down. So Allen didn't have much time to really set his feet and try to find Diggs, and Diggs had a hard time getting open. And there was some frustrations because obviously they want to win. I don't think there's any big issues there between those two guys. I expect to see Diggs back with Allen, and they'll be doing what they did next season during the regular season once again. But I think not having Von Miller definitely hurt the defense. But my big question is, I don't think there's as big of questions on the offense. Now, they still need to probably improve at running back. I like James Cook a lot. I think James Cook has a lot of potential. Yeah. But I think that Singletary might be one of the worst starting running backs in the NFL.
He's a fantasy running back.
Yeah, he'd be a backup on most other rosters. And so I think there's still improvements they can make in the run game. I don't think James Cook's maybe ready yet to be an every down back. He's still more of a third down guy. I think you need to get a really good first and second down back. And I think that would help you out. But aside from that, I don't have a ton of questions on the offense. It's the defense. McDermott's supposed to be a defensive-minded coach, and the defense is the one that can't get off the field and get Josh Allen back on the field. It was Joe Mixon running, and they kept missing it every time on their first tackle. A screen out to Chase, miss on the first tackle. McDermott's a defensive-minded coach. Why can the Bills' defense not perform in the postseason when it gets later on? I don't know. That's the major question. I think the offense is fine. You got to look to that defense and think, we got to get off the field somehow. You got to get the ball back in the hands of Josh Allen. They did not do that. Credit to the Bengals. I know you have some thoughts probably on that Bills-Bengals game as well.
Yeah, I do. I mean, first of all, let me address the obvious. Anybody who says the Bills can't win a big game or Josh Allen can't win a big game, I strongly disagree, and allow me to explain to you why, okay? With the sole exception of the first time he was in the playoffs in 2019, going into 2020, when they lost that game against the Houston Texans, they were winning. They were winning late. They made some bad play calls. He had a rough fumble in that game. There was actually one play where he ran backwards for like 17 yards. But also, I want to say, I think that was only like his second full year in the league as a starter. That's understandable. Look back to a couple of years ago when they lost in the AFC Championship game. That had nothing to do with Josh Allen. That was play calling. Yeah. Go back and watch that game. That was some of the worst play calling. But I don't know what Buffalo was thinking. I don't know if they choked in the moment or what the issue was. That was the COVID year. Last year, anybody with half a brain who watched that game between Kansas City and Buffalo, me and Cole have said,
coin toss.
That's one of the greatest That's one of the greatest playoff games of all time.
Yeah.
So you can't. And my God, and the guy threw for 400 yards. Well, like, what can you do?
Yeah, the way that game was going too. If the Bills win the coin toss, they probably win the game because the Chiefs couldn't get off the field either.
Absolutely. And here's the thing: going back to this year, just like Cole said, there. Number one, the Buffalo Bills defense couldn't get off the field. That has nothing to do with the quarterback. They weren't ready for that weather, which is mind-boggling considering they live and practice in Buffalo, but regardless. Right. So they had a lot of things against them. Now, I'm not sitting here and making excuses. And if somebody's going to sit here and say, who do you want to start your franchise with? You could pick Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, or Josh Allen. I am probably still picking Josh Allen as much as I love Patrick Mahomes, and I love Patrick Mahomes, and we'll get to that in a bit. But, in Josh Allen's career, he doesn't get hurt. When has he ever dealt with any kind of major injury? He's very durable. He could run the ball on set run plays. That's something Joe Burrow can't do, and again, I love Joe Burrow. But so there's things there that this guy does. As far as the running back situation, again, I agree with you completely. I'm saying this from a guy who picked Devin Singletary on the fantasy football team and saw what he could do in situations. But unless you're going to feed that guy the ball on dump off passes, that's about it. I'm sorry. Like, Cole was right. Singletary would probably be a perfect third down back if you need a few yards. If you need a little screen pass, he might be able to take one to the house. That's what he could do.
Stoney Michel is who I think of him as.
I can see that.
Because Singletary is kind of physical, but he's a smaller back. I would say it's kind of like Stoney Michel, where you saw him just be a backup and a guy in the red zone and in short yardage situations.
Right. And I mean, I'll wrap this up and I'll keep this quick because I know we want to get to the picks. But guys, in a few weeks from now, about a month or a little over a month, pay attention to YouTube and what Cole McDaniel puts out. And I'm not just saying this because he works for me and he's sitting next to me here in the screen by screen. It's the truth. This guy knows his stuff. When he starts breaking down the running backs, look at the dynamics and the things he breaks down. It's not the average stuff you're going to see on ESPN. It's in detailed thinking. It's in-depth thinking. And Buffalo will have that. They're going to pick probably now 26, 27. You could still get a stud running back.
Bijan Robinson.
First round.
Yeah. You're probably going to get the first running back off the board because running backs don't usually go until the second round now. But Bijan Robinson is a generational talent. And we're going to touch on those running backs here in a few months and a few weeks as I go over my rankings, but everybody knows that by far and away, Texas's running back Bijan Robinson is a top guy, and I think he sneaks into the first round. Buffalo would almost be foolish to not take him there because then you'd have Bijan Robinson as your main go-to back. You can move Singletary elsewhere, get him off of the books, and trade him away, and James Cook would be your third down back. I would take Bijan Robinson with James Cook any day.
In a heartbeat. And if they weren't going to do that, the Bills should have traded for Kareem Hunt and signed him long-term while they could, or at least 3 years earlier in the year. So there's a lot going on there. I want to talk about my other miss real quick.
Yeah.
the blind faith I have in the Dallas Cowboys stops now going into the next season. I don't care if it costs me a championship next year picking with Cole. I'm sick and tired of it already in the playoffs. They, once again, were the better team. Is San Francisco ridiculously talented on defense? Yes, they are. However, Dak Prescott, if you are the man, show up and act like it already. Like, this is getting ridiculous. You know, last year they should have beat the 49ers and they didn't. The garbage play call at the end of the game that actually could have worked if he would have slid about four yards earlier. That's a subject for a different day. But this year, he has no excuse. They played terrible. Once Tony Pollard got hurt, that was it. Zeke's got to go. Cut him out right. That's done. He's done. I mean, I still like McCarthy as a coach, but this was the year. This was wide open. And we're going to break down the Niners and the 49ers, or the Niners and the Eagles here in a second. But both those teams are unbelievable, beatable. They just are. They're good. They're good enough to be in the playoffs, the 1 and 2 seeds. But at the same time, Philadelphia and San Francisco are very beatable football teams. And if Dallas couldn't get that done, then they have nobody to blame with themselves. They are a regular season team. And until they can make that jump, it's unbelievably frustrating because they've done for years, the first couple of years of Dak Prescott, it was, well, he's young. They don't have a defense. Well, guess what? Dallas has a pretty damn good defense right now. So if they can't get it done with that defense, I don't know what else to say anymore, Cole. I mean, I'm not the biggest Dallas Cowboys fan. Don't take me wrong. But they have all the talent in the world. Jerry Jones puts money in that team. They have the top coaches, the top everything. For them to continuously fail to reach an NFC championship game, they have not been there since the 90s. It's just, it's unless there's one I'm not thinking of. But since I've been in high school, it's utterly ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the NFC was wide open. Everybody knew in the AFC it was going to be the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Bills. We've been talking about that for a while. But the NFC was a toss-up of really anybody in there. Aside from you and I both thought that the Vikings and the Giants were frauds. Aside from that, we were like, anybody could really take this division, and the Cowboys have enough talent. They certainly have the talent to be able to do so. And it was a close game the whole way against the Niners there. It's just a matter of not fully taking advantage of the opportunities that they have. And Dak Prescott, it's different than the Bills, where I felt like Josh Allen played a decent game, especially considering the pressure he had in his face. I felt like Dak Prescott just made some mistakes. They had good drives piecing together, and then he throws an interception down around the 20-yard line. And he did things to hurt his team. And his play certainly dropped from what you see during the regular season.
And here's the anger level with that real quick, okay? Because they were given a second chance at life. After I think it was either the first or second week of the year, it might have been the first, when Dak Prescott gets hurt, people think he might be out for the year. He only misses 5 weeks. That was a huge second chance. The fact that they went like 4-1 or 4-2 or something ridiculous with Cooper Rush, that was a huge second chance. The fact that the rest of the team remained healthy, everything was right there for him. It's frustrating. It's just, as an analyst who we talk about football 17 straight weeks, I'm sorry, I feel like I call myself an analyst at this point. You know, we analyze everything. And it just, man,
high school, college, the NFL, we watch a lot of football. So, in the last play, I mean, come on, to have Zeke snap the football and block a guy 1v1, have your offensive linemen split out, and I don't even know what they were trying to do there. It was almost like a short comeback route, and then supposed to be a quick pitch back. I have no clue what their plan was. But it got sniffed out and blown up from the start. It didn't even last 4 seconds.
Not against that defense.
Joke of a final play. So, Dallas squandered that away. So now that gives us an opportunity, as we talked about what happened on Sunday, and we were wrong on our picks, and saw some, honestly, poor performances on Sunday for those losing teams that you and I had picked. Now we can turn to the championship games, and we'll start in the NFC. That's the game Sunday at 3:30 in the afternoon. The NFC Championship, it is in Philly, and the city of brotherly love, the Eagles, again, they're hoping that they can get back to the Super Bowl. Of course, we remember the whole Philly special not too long ago, and they're going up against a Niners team that also, not too long ago, a few years ago, they were in the Super Bowl. Jimmy G and the Niners going up against the Chiefs. Both of those teams a game away from possibly meeting each other again, although it would be Brock Purdy this time under center. Vince, I'm going to start by saying this. The 49ers, they're a team that I would like to see make it to the Super Bowl. I really would. I'd like to see Brock Purdy get there. It's a cool story. They're going on a run. Even when they don't play the best game, they've somehow come away with a win. Kyle Shanahan's system's just working. Here's what I'm going to say, though, before I say exactly what happens with this game. We have number 1 seed and we're really 2 number 1 seeds still alive, okay, in the Chiefs and the Eagles. Very rarely do 2 number 1 seeds ever meet each other in the Super Bowl. It's usually if a number one seed gets there, the other side it's a different seed. It's rare to see them both get there. Now, as I look at this Eagles and Niners game, and I'd like to see the Niners get there, the Eagles, they played really well against the Giants. Are they getting back into a groove? Or was it just a matter of that the Giants just really the worst passing offense of all the teams that actually made it into the playoffs? I'm not sure. But at home, and a Niners team that now Amenahu and his issues as the whole domestic violence thing has popped out. Will that be a distraction for the team? Obviously, they're going on the road. They can certainly run the ball with McCaffrey, and I think there's some good pieces. But saw it against Dallas. I question if the Niners can fully put up a ton of points. For those reasons, and I think Hurts and the Eagles are starting to get it rolling again. I think in a very close, actually low-scoring game, I think the Eagles win this game against the San Francisco 49ers. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if you pick the same game here, but at the same time, my gut feeling coming into today was that you picked the Niners and we were different on all picks. We will wait and see on that, of course, as you're about to make your selection, but I just think the Eagles, they're the number 1 seed that makes it through in the NFC against the Niners, and I expect a close battle, but more defense than probably what many people would expect.
It's a great story. If San Francisco could go to the Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, 3rd-string quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, right? That's the name for the last pick. So yeah. It's a great story. I love San Francisco, actually. It's my dad's favorite team. My dad has owned 1 football jersey his entire life, 1 jersey of any sport his entire life. And when we were kids, that's because we bought it for him. We got him a Joe Montana jersey. Yep. We have always loved the 49ers. I cannot look at the 49ers without thinking about my dad. And so I've always pulled for him, especially this time of year. I want to pick San Francisco. I badly do. And I'm going to tell you who I picked in a second. But I want to point out a few things here. So when Brock Purdy took over, since then, all right, he beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had a losing record. He's beat Seattle twice, okay? Seattle barely made the playoffs. They beat Washington. They beat Las Vegas. They beat Arizona. And now just last week they beat Dallas. So with the exception of Dallas and Seattle, as good as he's been and as great as this ride has been, and I don't even think they've lost since they got Christian McCaffrey, so they've been on an unbelievable tear. They have not really beat anybody that good, again, with the exception of Dallas, and Seattle's kind of borderline. That, to me, was caution flag number 1. Caution flag number 2, as I have written down here, is McCaffrey. His calf is hurt. He's still going to play. There's no way this guy's going to miss the playoff game, but he's coming in a little bit banged up, right? So you have your number 1 threat in Christian McCaffrey, who is his entire career has either been boom or bust. He showed a little shakiness against Dallas. Still had a decent game against the Cowboys, but he wasn't lights out. He wasn't that guy who has gotten them to this point. That's a little concerning. So all that being said, then I flipped the coin and I looked at the Eagles. The Eagles have progressively gotten better throughout the season, with the exception of when Jalen Hurts was hurt, right? And we all wanted to see what was he going to be like against that Giants defense this past weekend. He was really good. That was a phenomenal game and a great game plan. So when it came down to it, each team here has a lot of good things, has a lot of bad things, more so good than bad. I said, well, I have it dead even, right? I have a little checklist here. And I said, everything's dead even. So I said, what would Dom Cleary do in this situation? Dom Cleary would search out both rosters, and whoever had the prominent Italian on the team would be his pick. That's the Philadelphia head coach, and that's why I'm going with the Eagles. Final score, Philadelphia 24, San Francisco 10. I cannot believe we picked the same game again, but there it is. But and I did the Cole McDaniel, which I'm first time all season long. I've actually wrote down the final scores of both predictions here. But yeah, I'm going with Philadelphia. And now that we both picked Philadelphia, I could root hardcore against them and root for the 49ers. So that actually makes me feel a little bit better. I do not like Philadelphia. I love Rocky, as Cole knows. We were recently together in a trivia contest. Yep. Love Rocky. Love myself a good cheesesteak. I have not had any really fast food or junk food in about 7 weeks, and just the thought of a cheese steak right now is making my mouth salivate. But yeah, I mean, Cole, I love Terrell Owens, but I dislike the Philadelphia Eagles. And when Owens played for him, T.O., I had to root from that time. So that one hurts. Going to go with Philadelphia. Like I said, my final score I wrote down there, 24-17. I have a little asterisk for a key factor, and I just wrote the word Italian, head coach of the Eagles. There you go.
Yeah, not just Italian, also spent his college career at Mount Union. So, of course, Northeast Ohio ties there, as we both think that Sirianni and the Eagles make it through to the Super Bowl.
Not only that, but Kelsey plays for that team too. So on Fox 8 News a little bit earlier, they were interviewing Mr. and Mrs. Kelsey. So because they want to see that matchup, but we're going to get to that in a second.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it. Again, I knew that Vince would be tempted by the San Francisco 49ers. And thought you were going to go with the San Francisco 49ers, but we're on the same page with the Eagles. So we turn to Sunday night at 6:30, the AFC Championship game. And this one I had no clue which way you're going to go. I was assuming you'd go with the Niners, but I wasn't sure which way you'd go here. So far, we're still matching up on our picks. But Vince, the Bengals on a nice run here right now, but they have to travel to Kansas City, and the Bengals have beaten the Chiefs the last 3 times in a row. We know all streaks come to an end at some point, and that Chiefs team, they're eager to get back to the Super Bowl. They're a very talented team. It's hard to count out the Kansas City Chiefs, especially when they're the number 1 seed at home. Do they get it done at Arrowhead?
Kansas City has a lot to play for here. You mentioned it right there with 3 straight losses of the Bengals. You don't expect to see that. Kansas City also up 21-3 in last year's AFC Championship game. Bengals came right back. Cincinnati started this season 0-2. At 0-2, if you would have told me they were going to make the AFC Championship game, I might have called you crazy at that point. Everything has changed. Patrick Mahomes is now a little bit banged up. How mobile is he going to be? Patrick Mahomes is a gamer, right? And they've won playoff games. Ask the Cleveland Browns a couple of years ago with Chad Henne having to come in off the bench. They're better coached. I think, Andy Reid could probably coach circles around Zach Thomas.
Yeah.
Okay?
For sure.
So I don't think anyone's going to dispute that. I'm not a huge Andy Reid fan.
And he'd draw a mustache on him at the same time.
He would. And he'd order some bratwurst. He said that's his favorite part about going overseas next year. I like Andy Reid. He's talking about a guy who has grown on me over the years. I love Patrick Mahomes. He's one of my favorite players. This one is so tough because if I looked at the Kansas City team as a whole and everybody was healthy, I don't think this game would even be close. I think they'd finally get over that Cincinnati hiccup that they have. They'd smash right through them. You don't see the same team lose at home 2 years in a row in the AFC Championship game against the same team. So the odds are stacked against Cincinnati. Here's why I like the Bengals. Joe Burrow is playing out of his mind right now. He's playing confident. That team is playing confident. If they can find a way to block, just block for the guy. That's all they have to do. They could score on anybody. If they could keep Joe Burrow upright, they could score. Joe Mixon is looking good. He's healthy and back. Jamar Chase looks like he's finally fully recovered from that injury. Everything they're doing right now in Cincinnati is working. They have that swagger. They have that magic touch. They want to get back to the Super Bowl. This was a team that was minutes away from winning the Super Bowl. I like Kansas City. They're better coached. Kansas City has the better tight end. Kansas City has the better quarterback. Cincinnati just has that spirit right now that you cannot deny. So when it came down to making my pick, here's exactly what I did, and I don't have it on me, so I'm going to have to mimic it, but let's just say there was a coin. I went, and it came up the Cincinnati Bengals. So as much as I would love a San Francisco-Kansas City rematch of a couple of years ago, as much as I would love it because it reminds me of my childhood with both those teams being good, I can't believe I'm saying this. I never would have predicted the Super Bowl in the beginning of the year. There's no way. Strangely enough, my Super Bowl prediction, Philadelphia versus Cincinnati, final score out of the pages, my boy Cole there, Cincinnati 42, Kansas City 34. So you heard it here first. Can't believe I'm picking against the same team 2 years in a row in the AFC Championship game. I'm not comfortable with either one of these picks, and I'm way less comfortable with this pick. But there it is. At the very worst, we'll be tied going into the Super Bowl, which is going to be crazy if that happens. Julio.
You're killing me, dude. Like, I was convinced you were going to go Niners-Chiefs. The Chiefs-Bengals game was the one I thought was more of the toss-up, but you said it there. You were looking forward and rooting for a Niners-Chiefs game.
Big
and
time.
I'm
Still
like,
am.
okay, I need to pick up points here. And my gut feeling is I'm like, one seeds don't meet each other. So that means I need to go Eagles-Bengals. And so I took the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh!
I think they get this done. So we are still on the same page with picks.
We got some watching.
Because Andy Reid is the better head coach. But Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow really are on the same tier. An injured Pat Mahomes, who isn't going to be as mobile, he's going to have to stay in the pocket. I think that limits him. So I think a healthy Joe Burrow is better than a slightly injured, gimpy Pat Mahomes. So I'm going to give it to Joe Burrow. I think the receivers are better for the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, Kelsey obviously at tight end gets thrown in the mix of receivers, but give me Chase, Higgins, Boyd any day over Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Sky Moore and those guys. Kelsey's just the one that holds up that group. So give me
Agreed.
the Bengals there. Give me the run game for the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Mixon has been looking good. Samaje Perine has really stepped up as the backup running back.
Yep.
And I think they're better than McKinnon and Pacheco, as good as Pacheco has been. So then I look to the defensive side. And the Bengals, I already knew they were the better side defensively, but they really looked excellent this past week against the Bills. I think there's too many things leading the way of the Bengals. Now, all streaks come to an end at some point. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. This is at Arrowhead. It's been 3 times in a row for the Bengals. The Chiefs, they want the revenge after the loss last season. So I think there's all that on the table. There's a lot to play for the Chiefs. There's a lot to play for both of these teams. But I think momentum swinging enough the way of the Bengals that they get it done. And like I said, I just don't think that one seeds typically meet each other. Because of that, I'm more confident in the Eagles beating the Niners than I am in the Chiefs beating the Bengals. And that's why I think we see an Eagles-Bengals matchup in the Super Bowl. But I have the Bengals winning, again, a close game, but more of a high-scoring game, 35-31 over the Kansas City Chiefs. There you have it. I'm still going to be down 1 regardless at the end of this week, and it's going to come down to the Super Bowl to possibly tie it up. And we already discussed our tiebreaker would be who did better on college picks. We don't really keep track of that.
Oh, we are now.
That is just a worst case scenario into the season. We need to come down to it and use it. It might happen.
We're about to.
We might be tied.
I don't want to be sitting there at 1 a.m. Super Bowl Sunday walking through all our shows trying to figure out, in case we're tied. I'll say this though, man, you're looking good. I can see the 5 pounds of muscle there. You're looking like Hercules over there. So good for you. Just a fun year, regardless of who wins this thing. It's been fun, man. I've loved every second of it. What a jump over to YouTube this has been. My girls, my family getting to watch this, they've loved every second. So, I'll say this. You said confidence-wise, you're more confident in Philadelphia. And I would have to agree as well. If I was to rank these 1, 2, what game am I more confident of? I probably would say Philadelphia. But here's the thing, like, I wouldn't consider either one of these an upset. Like, if we go 0-2, I'm not even going to be the slightest bit embarrassed by it because you know how difficult it is to pick. These truly are the 4 best teams remaining. There's nobody better than these. They proved it. I think we would both make a case for Buffalo, and I think both of us can admit here on air, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but I'm pretty damn sure if Buffalo won, we would have both picked them. So,
yep.
Because
they needed revenge. They needed revenge. It was going to be a neutral site. I just felt like Buffalo should get it, but we talked about the issues with the defense, and pretty straightforward there. But if they got by the Bengals, I would have definitely been picking the Buffalo Bills and sticking to my guns.
Yeah, and if San Francisco does win again, I mean, let's say they go out and clock Philadelphia, it's going to be so difficult to have to pick against them in the Super Bowl. I have no clue who I'm picking in the Super Bowl, so it is going to be so much fun this weekend to watch these games. I'm looking forward to it. Truth be told, behind the scenes, my schedule here in a couple weeks should be slowing down. Maybe we'll get together and we'll do the Super Bowl episode together because I think that would be a blast as well. But for Cole, I'll let you take us home like you do every week, though. But I do want to say for the both of us, this has been so much fun. I have loved this season. I mean, and the fact that I was behind for most of it was brutal. But this has been a fun stretch. I think it's hysterical that we keep picking identical. Like, he writes his down, I write mine down too. So there isn't any chicanery going on and nothing like that. We're not doing this for we're not doing this for television ratings or anything nuts. I just think it's fun. So, Cole, again, I'll let you take us home. I just think that the AFC in general is in a much better position. Yeah, they've been better all season long. So if the NFC comes out of this by winning the Super Bowl, I'm not going to say I'm going to be shocked because let's see what the matchup is first before we make that prediction. But just crazy to think how close it is with these 4 teams remaining. It's the way it should be. So again, more than anything, thank you for the fans for watching. But seriously, thank you, Climate Tech, to have a sponsor now come back. They've already signed on. They've already paid. The check is cleared for next year. That's unheard of for a sponsor to pay a year ahead of time. Yeah. That's how much they love this show and they love you guys. And we thank you for that. Colio.
Yeah. Once we pick the Super Bowl, we will have picked 285 games, NFL games this season. And we had different selections throughout the regular season. We had different picks every single week. And if we end up tied at the end of the Super Bowl, that's crazy. Out of 285 games that we would have selected, that's just the NFL selections and what our standings were here. So that's crazy. That's crazy. It's been a really fun season. We've had a really good time. I definitely miss this show when we finish it up. But the nice thing for us is with how long the NFL season is, we get to spend half of the year doing this show every single year. So shout out to Climate Tech, again, the sponsor of this show, as you mentioned. Great to have them re-up for next year. I know you and I are looking forward to returning and doing this show again next season. We're not done yet. We still have one more episode, the Super Bowl episode. Maybe we'll get together in person to make the selections for that show.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Good time. So we've had a blast. And like I said, NFL is certainly not going to be done. We'll move to the off season. I've already been evaluating prospects just to know the behind the scenes since the middle of December. Everybody, I have been watching film on prospects. I am actually going to evaluate more prospects than I even did last season. I believe last year I watched film on 168 guys. I'm already pushing 150 now. A couple position groups left to continue to evaluate, keep making my notes on. I think I'm going to be at about 200 this year. So up in a good 30 or 40 guys that I have paid attention to. And you will start to see, and really in March, you're going to start to see some of those rankings and those things come out as I work on that during February. But it's going to be fun this offseason, even despite the Browns not yet having a first round pick unless they make any big moves. So it's going to be a good time. Vince, any last words?
Nope. If the Browns would have picked Watson a couple years ago, when they should have, we'd have number one pick. But I think I've said that at least 50 times on this show. So, hey, 200, whatever it was, 285 games, 278 games, whatever it is. It's
285. Yep.
285. It shows how much we think alike. Honestly, not to be mushy, but I think it shows how close our friendship is.
Yeah.
That just how similar we are with so many things. So again, nothing more. Thank you.
Perfect. Everybody out there, enjoy the AFC and NFC championships. We'll be back with you here very shortly for the Super Bowl.
Climatech is a full-service company. We install as well as service both residential and commercial products. We service furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, boilers, mini split systems, tankless hot water. We've got a good group of technicians that have been developed into a company culture that delivers a good degree of confidence to the customer and gives us a good product output. They want to take care of the customer and make sure that the customer is satisfied with their service. And when you've got non-stressed employees at your home, you're going to get a greater result from that service call or from that installation. Our customer needs, comfort, and health are of utmost importance, and we strive to provide that to every customer within their budget. As we continue to grow, we remain focused on maintaining our high level of customer satisfaction. When you hire Climatech, you're hiring a whole team of experts that have been in the business well over 80 years. If you're looking for a new install, if you're looking for just maintenance on your equipment, we are the company of your choice.